Howdy. This new video will be under a playlist called Discussions, and under Discussions, we'll be talking about world news or events that interest me or what people recommend. Today, I was just paging through some news channels and saw that NASA is building something called an SLS, I believe, a space launch system. The engine's going to be developed by Boeing. It's supposed to be the world's most powerful rocket. Unfortunately, it's not reusable from what I've seen, and I believe it's got like 8.5 million pounds of thrust, which is like what 3,900, 4,000 tons of thrust. I think is around there. Um, and is this supposed to get us to the other side of the moon, which is the furthest we humans have traveled or will travel until we go to Mars? The problem is that uh, are we ready to be able to go further into space as a species, not just as like a government or a nation or a people of a nation? Are we ready? I mean, we have a lot of our own real world problems here on our own planet. And if we figured out the technology to even travel to Mars, regardless of bacteria that live there and uh, the environment that is there, how harsh it may be, are we ready to go to space? It's the question I'm posing today. If this rocket's developed and it works, right? And even though it's not reusable, if it can get us to places quickly enough past the moon, like say to Mars, and every nation that can afford it starts developing things like this, right? What does that pose to us as into the future? I mean, humanity still uses war as a way to solve conflicts instead of words. And if we bring war into space, it's not going to be uh, what people are thinking of a a peaceful space race and so on and so forth. Because if the U.S. sends people to Mars underneath that stupid Earth banner or the one Earth flag they created, right? And then let's say China develops a rocket and they go to Mars too. Russia does the same, some other European nations do. There's going to be a conflict of interests, of who claims what, and there's acts and treaties in place to not be able to claim said territory in space, but we all know how territorial claims work on our planet. What makes you think anyone's going to follow the treaties that are set for space, an unexplored area? This poses a big security risk to everyone on the planet. And I personally believe that we should leave the planet. That Earth is just a small starting point for humanity. But if we can't fix the problems we have here on our planet, such as hunger and poverty and the problems and the concept of war in general, if we go out into space, it's going to be no different anywhere we go. And regardless of whether or not you believe if anything else exists out there on another planet, and let's just say they do, and we run into another alien species that is maybe not as barbaric as humanity has been in our history of existence, however many short it will be in regards to the age of the universe. We've only existed for several thousand years as what we are right now. I'm not talking about when we just came out of the damn primordial ooze and developed into some descendant of an ape, or primate or whatever you want to call them, right? And I just don't think we're ready. We are still an ancient species. Our bloodlust is extreme, and if we run into an alien race, let's just say, that is more developed than us, even technological, like technology wise, right? and they're not ready for war. War's what will bring, because we have this self need, this greed, that anything and everything we walk to, come across, meet is ours. I mean, you can look at American Manifest Destiny moving west towards California, destroying Native Americans in their wake. You could just look at the exploration of the New World by just Spain, France, United Kingdom, so on and so forth. And you can see what we did there. We set settlers, we claimed peace but brung war and disease. And we still do that to this day, just differently. Every country that has a military does it. Military bases. If you have military bases existing outside of your country, like Russia, China, and the U.S., even though the U.S. has the most, they're essentially what the colonies were back in the old colonial days, right? Like, the biggest difference is, of course, we're not spreading foreign diseases, because the diseases we're carrying now are pretty much existing everywhere on the planet, right? So that's not what I'm talking about. It's that it's essentially the same thing. The colonies were set up to in order to have a foothold to compete with other countries in that area, and you know declare this as their own, and to rule over the land, and to, like I said, to expand their control and to prove their military prowess, right? The U.S. does the same thing. We have hundreds of military bases outside of our own country that some countries agree with and love that they're there, and some countries don't like that they're there, and it causes controversy constantly. And if we go into space, we're going to do the same thing. We'll start by setting up a small base camp somewhere, and the next thing you know, there's going to be millions of people there, thousands at first, then millions, spreading our diseases. Because let's be honest, humanity is not careful. We're not known for being precise creatures. We go in and, even to this day, destroy entire nations on a whim, invading the wrong countries, bombing the wrong people, because we don't care. As long as it's not directly happening to us, we don't care. It happens elsewhere. So if we go into space and conflicts are happening on Mars, or in the transit to Mars, the people on Earth aren't going to care. They're going to look at it as, oh, it's happening far away, it's not going to affect us. And if we meet another alien species and start doing the same thing to them that we've done to plenty of other civilizations and people in the world, how are they going to view us? That's not going to leave a good image. And the people back here on Earth aren't going to care. That's the problem, is that they're not going to care. They would rather set up these colonies and destroy everything in their wake in the name of expansionism and quote unquote peace, right? And I know I'm getting off track here. It started with development of a rocket to some crazy, 3 decade away, fucking, not even more than 3 decade, 3 century away, fucking colonization of space. You know, I'm just trying to say that, and I'm not very good with words. I'm just trying to say that, are we ready? Are we ready for any form of deep space travel, even if it's primitive now, in the grand scheme of things? Our rockets now are laughable to the rockets in the future. The way technology grows is insane, and I just don't think we're ready. I think if we go into space not prepared to accept the responsibility that is space travel, then we're going to have conflicts on our own planet between warring nations, conflicts in space, and if we meet other species out there, conflicts between us and them. And it's about a 50-50. You either run into a civilization that's peaceful or a civilization that is warlike. And if they're anything like humans, then they'd have a longer history of bloodshed and war than we will. And they'll be more prepared to fight us. I'm just afraid that if we expand it out, that we would adopt the form of slavery again, and we have a problem with that. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Is humanity ready to go to deep space travel, whether it be within the next decade or next century? What do you think? What traits do we need to carry with us when going into space? Like I said, I don't think we're ready because we still have a thing called war, and we have so many problems with our own planet. We will just spread to other planets, inhabited or not, right? So, what traits do you think humanity needs to take into space? How should we approach this? Because it's something we have to tread carefully on. Because everyone's going to be for their best interests here, right? Every country will shake hands and lie to each other right in the face and lie to the people. So, what do you think? I believe before we should go any further than Mars, we should learn to not immediately respond with violence when proposed with a hard question, or immediately discredit someone as ignorant because they don't exactly believe what you do.